Hey everyone, it's me, Nicole, and it's time for another pregnancy update. So it's been a busy week. I've had a doctor's appointment and I've had my first ultrasound, so I've got a little bit to fill you guys in on. So the first thing was the doctor's appointment. It was last Thursday, and it was the first time I was meeting my new OBGYN. I picked this OB because I had been researching for over a year trying to find a doctor that had a good reputation for being supportive of a VBACing mom. So I called my local hospital and I asked to speak to the labor and delivery department, and then I asked to speak to the nurses station. And because I know the nurses work with everybody, they're not just distinctly with one doctor or another, so I just asked the nurse that picked up who she thought was the most supportive and most successful doctor at performing VBACs, and she named these two doctors of this practice. And so I kind of kept their names in the back of my head, and as I would meet people and if we got to talking about birth and they had, you know, gone through a VBAC, I would ask them who their doctors were, and 100% of the time, if they were in this area, 100% of the time they said one of these two doctors, which is crazy because there's so many doctors that deliver at this hospital, and I thought for sure that there would be another doctor, but it's every single time that I talked to somebody, they named one of these two doctors. So I thought that I was pretty safe going with this practice, so I called them up and made an appointment, and that's who I chose to work with. So I went in, everybody was super duper nice. It's kind of like a small little practice. They have 3 different sites for their practices, so it's just kind of like a little quaint storefront type of dealy. And so I went in there, everybody was super nice. They brought me back. I had Sadie with me and Robert. They asked me all of my family history, asked me about my last birth, and took my weight and everything like that, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then they had me, what did they do next? Well, they had the doctor come in and he started talking to me, and he asked me about my plans for this pregnancy and for this birth, and I told him that I was very interested in a VBAC. And I think I was a little assertive about it, and I was very much, you know, gung-ho about it, and I think that it kind of made him want to gather his thoughts before he responded right away. But when he did respond, he said, what we do worry about with VBACs is uterine rupture, and it can happen in, 1% of women who try to VBAC. And so I told him, I said, I understand that that is a risk, but if the percentage is 1% and actually it's less than 1%, then that means that 99% of the time everything is fine. And he said, yes, that's correct. So I hate whenever people are like, oh, it's 1%, you better be careful, because 99% is massively, positive. So to have that 1% kind of lurking over the conversation, I just felt like was kind of negative. But he also went on to say, if you do go over your due date and you're not showing any signs of progression, then we have to talk about some things. And I asked him if he was okay with doing some natural methods of induction first before we went ahead and did the C-section. He said, oh yeah, you can do any of that stuff. But yeah, I think part of me was kind of like, I wanted to go in and have the doctor be like, yes, I am totally for you doing a VBAC. I believe in a woman's body and I know that you can do it and I stand right behind you. But then part of me knows that doctors have to be very, very careful with what they say, because they can't promise you a VBAC because they can head for, a lawsuit that way, and they have to tell you all the risks of a VBAC so that and you can make the most educated decision for yourself. So after that conversation, they drew my blood to do my CBC, and they did a pelvic exam, and then before we left, he gave me this paper, and it is a consent for vaginal birth after cesarean section, and it basically has a whole paragraph up here talking about the risks of VBACing, and then there's like a little section that talks about the risks of doing a repeat C-section, and then there's like a whole checklist down here of items that they want you to affirm that you have read and understand. So basically it says, I have not had more than one previous C-section. I understand that I have the option of undergoing an elective repeat C-section or attempting a vaginal birth after a C-section. I understand that the risk of uterine rupture during a VBAC is in someone such as me who has had a prior incision in the non-contracting part of the uterus is around 1%. And again, it says around 1%. I've done my research. I know that it's less than 1%. I understand that VBAC is associated with a higher risk of harm to my baby than myself. I understand that if my uterus ruptures during my VBAC, there may not be sufficient time to operate and to prevent the death or permanent brain damage to my baby. I understand that the decision to have a VBAC is entirely my own and the option of elective repeat cesarean has been discussed with me. I understand that during my VBAC, the use of oxytocin or Pitocin hormone to make my uterus contract may be necessary to assist me in my vaginal delivery. This may increase the use of uterine rupture. Now, let me just put a star next to that one, and I'll come back to it. I understand that if I choose a VBAC and end up having a cesarean section during labor, there is a greater risk of problems than if I had just gone with an elective C-section. I have read or have had read to me the above information and I understand it. Any questions about this issue have been answered to my satisfaction. Then it has here, you can choose to either check that you want to attempt a VBAC or that you want to have a repeat C-section, and then I have to sign it, my husband has to sign it, a witness has to sign it, and the doctor has to sign it. So on the one hand, I was kind of like, whoa, they're really villainizing a VBAC here. You know, they're just really making it seem like it's such a bad thing. But then I thought about it and I said, you know, would I rather be with a doctor who feels like it's very important to see his malpractice lawyer come up with this paper and this form, inform his patients so that he can have the most successful and the most legal experience possible, you know, because that to me almost says like VBACing is very important to him if he went through all that trouble to make sure that the process is going correct. So does that make sense? Did that make sense what I'm saying? I hope it made sense. So I guess in a way this paper, even though it sounds very villainous and very negative, I'm glad that he has this paper because I feel like the fact that he has this information typed up means that he views VBACing as an important aspect of his practice. Okay, so the one that says, the little quote that I put a star next to, I understand that during my VBAC, the use of oxytocin or Pitocin hormone to make my uterus contract may be necessary to assist me in my vaginal delivery. This may increase the risk of uterine rupture. That will not happen. I will not allow them to use Pitocin. It dramatically increases your risk of uterine rupture. It puts your risk, I think, up to 4 or 5% instead of less than 1%. So if it comes down to that and they say that, you know, Pitocin should be used, that won't be an option for me. Okay, so that was that. I got my test results back from my CBC and they said everything looks good. They just informed me that I have Rh negative blood, which I already knew from my last birth, and luckily Robert is also negative, so I don't have to get the RhoGAM shot, which is great because I would prefer to get as little shots as I have to. I got poked a lot with my last pregnancy. My blood was being tested twice a week for toxicity towards the end of my pregnancy, and then with all the IVs and everything, it just was no fun. So I don't want to be, I would like to stay away from needles as much as possible. And then he ordered an ultrasound, which I thought was kind of weird because I knew the first day of my last period, but I kind of went along with it. I really was kind of curious to make sure that everything was going okay, that, you know, there was no ectopic, or there was not that there would be anything to suggest that, but it's just nice to see that everything's going well, and you know, to get a chance to see that heartbeat. So I'm not above getting an early ultrasound. So we went in, and at first she started by doing an external. Wow, this video is turning out to be long. I'm sorry. At first she started out with an external, and she took a look at my bladder and my ovaries and whatever she could see of my fallopian tubes, and she told me she couldn't see the baby, which I knew that she wouldn't be able to. at 7 weeks 2 days. And so she went ahead and did an internal, and she's kind of, you know, probing around, and I think she like took a picture at each station, and then she like really got up in there, and I'm like, whoa. But she said, yeah, she's like, your baby's tiny, but there it is. And my husband right there and Sadie's right there, and so they're looking. I couldn't see because my head was behind the screen, so I couldn't see. But I could see that they were looking at it, and she said, wow, she's like, it's very tiny. It's measuring about a week earlier than what you thought. So, which scared me, because I immediately was like, is there something wrong? Is it not growing at the appropriate rate? You know, what's going on? Because, you know, with Sadie and her complications, my mind just automatically jumps to something's wrong. But the tech said, no, you're just a little bit later than you thought you were. It happens all the time. And I'm like thinking in my head, well, then I must have ovulated a week later, or I ovulated twice, or somehow I ovulated and then got pregnant a week later. So I don't know. I was so confused. But yeah, she moved my due date up, or back. She moved my due date back from May 26th to now it's June 3rd. So that's why this video is 6 weeks revisited instead of 7 weeks update. So let's see, what else can I tell you about? We did get to see the heartbeat. It was about 136 beats per minute. And whenever we had our first ultrasound with Sadie, we didn't get to hear the heartbeat, but we could see the flicker. This time she did turn the sound on, so we were able to hear the heartbeat, and it sounded so strong, and I was just amazed. It's so awesome, you know, to be able to hear that little heartbeat. So it looked like the whole little body was flashing, like the whole little being. It looked like the whole thing was flashing because the baby is so teeny tiny. She said it was the size of a grain of rice at that point. So wow, so tiny. So yeah, I guess I could talk about symptoms. I have had touches of nausea here or there, touches of just not wanting to eat. It's just gotten a little bit more severe than it was for my last update, but again, still nothing that I'm like really complaining over or concerned about. I'm still eating a fair amount, and craving chocolate cake a lot. I saw it at the store and I was like, oh, I have to get that. So I have it, but I am sharing it. My first thought was, that's mine, I'm not sharing it, and I decided to share it. So there's also a lot of other things that I'm craving. I'm craving vegetables and like cottage cheese with fresh fruit on top. So those are some things. I don't know if they're really cravings, but that's just things in my head that I know are packed with good stuff for pregnancy, and so those are things that I'm attracted to. So it's either craving or an attraction, and either way, I'm trying to make sure that I get a lot of good things in my diet, other than chocolate cake. I've been peeing a lot more. I wake up at least once or twice during the night to go, which is normal and good. What else? I've had a little bit of acne pop up on my chin, which again is another pregnancy symptom. You guys are also going to notice, at least with Sadie, that with my pregnancy with her, my nose started growing like super wide, and I had a huge nose by the end of my pregnancy. So that's something that I'm waiting for, and I'm not really looking forward to, but that may happen. Still some boob stuff going on, and it's kind of gone less in the sensitive route and more in the sore route. So that's happening, and yeah. Let's see, what else can I tell you? Oh, I was going to tell you about my weight. I'm not going to tell you my exact weight. What I've decided I'm going to do is the weight that they gave me at the doctor's appointment, I'm going to use that as like ground zero. So if I gain weight, I'll tell you guys plus so many pounds. And if I lose weight, then I will, you know, subtract that amount of pounds from ground zero. So, by the end of pregnancy, I will be able to tell you how much weight I've gained or lost without actually telling you my weight. Does that sound fair? Yeah, so I think that covers almost everything. If you have any questions for me, you can go ahead and leave a comment below. I think I might want to do a video speaking about why I'm going for a VBAC versus choosing a repeat C-section. The ultrasound tech actually asked me, because I told her that I was going to be going for a repeat C-section, or a for a VBAC, and she was like, can I ask you why? And she didn't say it with a smile on her face. She was like, can I ask you why? And I was kind of like not prepared to give her an answer really, because I wasn't expecting her to say that. But I told her why. So I'm thinking maybe I'll do an explanation video of why I am going for a VBAC rather than a repeat C-section. I want to do a cloth diapering / potty training update for Sadie. And yeah, so I've got a couple more videos in the making. Oh, and I have a couple of like pregnancy buys. I didn't actually buy them for myself. My mom bought me 2 pairs of maternity jeans. With my last pregnancy, I was on bed rest the whole time that I had a belly pretty much, so I never got to wear maternity clothes at all. So now she already got me 2 pairs of maternity jeans, and I tried them on and they seem like they're gonna fit really, really well. They seem like they have a lot of room to grow in the belly, but they seem like they fit my legs really well. So I'm excited about that. I'm not going to show them to you guys. One of the pairs of jeans is black, and it's more of a flared bottom, and then it's got some white little crystal type things stitching on the back pockets, and then the other pair are just like some light wash jeans. So and she found those at Goodwill. I was amazed that she actually found something at Goodwill in good condition for cheap in my size. So that was really cool. So anyways, this was a super, super long video, but it was a really busy week. So, so the next videos probably won't be as long and take up so much of your day. There's so many good videos out right now. I'm so backed up with watching videos, and I really need to catch up. but yeah, so I have that list of videos that I'm gonna be putting out, and then I will see you for my real 7-week video next week. Sorry, I'm like fumbling over my words at the end of this video. But anyways, I hope that you guys have a good night, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.